Look, they laughed at me. They said I only filled out forms at a community center. They said my job had no real weight. I laughed too. Then my cousin's ex-husband's new wife, a social worker who had worked in family court for 10 years, saw the internal verification string on the back of my badge at a full moon banquet. It hit her like ice water dumped on her head. Her lips went pale. She almost bit out each word. She asked if I was the one who wrote the high-risk contact restriction decision. The table was still cheering for my cousin to toast her heroes. Only I knew the truth. The hero was not me. The hero was a report that could not be made public. If it went public, the dinner would turn into a courtroom. My name is Jiang Cheng. My family always introduces my career with the same soft insult. They say it is stable. If they want more detail, they say I work at a community service center. They say I write materials. They say I run processes. They say it fits a woman. I do not argue. Arguing means explaining. Explaining means telling them I do not write forms. I write the boundary conditions for whether a child can grow up safe. The real title is long. You do not need to remember it. Think of it as a child contact risk assessor. Courts and agencies hire people like me to evaluate whether a parent or guardian can provide safe care. We evaluate the hidden knives inside ordinary things like visitation, handoffs, and weekends that sound harmless on paper. We have iron rules. No storytelling to the outside. No favors on the inside. There is a colder rule too. Every conclusion must survive challenge, but it must never become gossip at a dinner table. This is where it happened. My cousin Guyao held a full moon banquet for her baby. The private room steamed with heat. Red envelopes looked like bricks. Relatives took turns praising the baby, praising the mother, praising the mother's family backbone. Some praised my cousin for winning a war. They meant the divorce. They meant custody. They meant she pushed her ex-husband's visitation down to almost nothing. My cousin raised a glass and thanked everyone. She thanked the lawyer. She thanked family. Then she pulled me up. She said her younger cousin Jiang Cheng worked hardest running paperwork for her. The room laughed kindly. I knew that laugh. It was the laugh that shoves the real weight into one lazy word. Paperwork. My older cousin Zhang Lei works in sales. He talks fast. Alcohol makes him sound like a host. He clapped my shoulder. He said people like Jiang Cheng are the best. No fighting for attention. Perfect for a service window. He said if anyone needs divorce forms, find her. Fast. The table roared. Her ex-husband Lin Feng came too. He remarried. He brought his new wife Cheng Min to save face. Lin Feng smiled like polish. His words had spikes. He said the world runs on process now. He said if you walk process right, you can write black and white into flowers. Cheng Min nodded politely at first. She was the type who did not grab the spotlight. Clean clothes. Standard smile. Busy eyes. I could tell in one glance she was scanning micro-expressions. She scanned who moved closer when the baby cried, who got more impulsive after alcohol. Here is where the accident happened. I picked up the baby for a moment. The baby grabbed my badge lanyard. The badge flipped and flipped back. In that instant, Cheng Min's gaze locked onto the back of the card. There was a string of characters nobody notices. An internal verification code. There was a tiny mark too. Outsiders think it is decoration. Insiders know it means an assessor identity can be verified. Her chopsticks tapped the plate edge. A small sound. The smaller the sound, the more it felt like a crack. Cheng Min stood. Her voice still had party smoothness. Her face did not. She walked to me like she was confirming a diagnosis. She asked Jiang Cheng, "Are you on the high-risk contact assessment track?" The room was still laughing. Someone thought she was praising my professionalism. They said, "Oh, Jiang Cheng knows people in the system." Lin Feng frowned. He said, "What are you doing?" Chengmin ignored him. She stared at me. She almost bit each word. She asked, 2 years ago, the supplemental assessment behind Gu Yao versus Lin Feng, the chain that limited visitation and required supervised handoffs, were you the person who closed the signature loop? Half the air left the room. My cousin's glass tilted. The wine surface broke into thin lines. I looked at Chengmin. My voice stayed calm like I was reading a document that had to be accurate. I said, "Chengmin, I cannot discuss individual cases here." That sentence made Lin Feng's face flush dark. He said, "What does that mean? What case? What are you people doing?" Chengmin inhaled. She was a social worker. She knew the rules. Her voice began to shake anyway. She said, "If you are really on that track, you should know your report saved a child." Lin Feng exploded. He said, "What nonsense. They bought connections. They framed me." My cousin shot to her feet. Her eyes reddened. She said, "Lin Feng, shut up." I did not raise my voice. Volume would turn a full moon banquet into a boxing ring. I said 3 sentences. Each one sat on an ethical border. First, I will not confirm or deny any case detail here. Second, any restriction is not meant to humiliate anyone. It is meant to move risk away from a child. Third, this table is for a baby's full moon. Do not use my job as a weapon for mutual torture. Chengmin looked at me. Her eyes were tangled thread. She knew what lived in the file. The lines you cannot read out loud at a dinner table. Patterns of relapse. Threats that lose control. Coercive control that can show up at handoffs. Those lines do not belong next to red envelopes and cake. She also connected 2 things for the first time. Her new husband. The assessment structure that kept her awake at night when she read it in the system. This is the part that feels insane. The happiest phrase at a banquet is 100 years of harmony. Some people's 100 years must be built at a safe distance from someone else's child. The second half of the night forced laughter to continue. It felt like porcelain repaired with glue. Lin Feng left early. He said your family should win an award for acting. Chengmin did not fight him. She stood outside the smoking corner like she wanted to peel herself off a sick feeling. My cousin grabbed my hand. Her voice shook. She said, "Was it really you?" I looked at her. I only answered the part one could answer. I said, "Some protection has to look like luck." Zhang Lei later sent a red envelope in the family group chat. He said, "Full moon joy, do not fuss." He messaged me privately. He took a long time to type 1 line. He said, "Little sister, I take back what I said about the service window. If you ask whether I regret being half exposed at that table, I will say yes. For my line of work, any exposure is an accident. If you ask whether I would let a child move closer to risk for the sake of relatives saving face, I will say no. Even harder no. Ethics does not torture you most at the moment of choice. It tortures you afterward because you must hide the choice. You let the outside world think it was only process. You let the person who got named let them think it was bad luck." The sweetness of the full moon wine stayed in my mouth. I also know some sweetness is bought by moving blades away from a child. And the owner of the blade will never admit at a dinner table that he ever held one.